You're
Hey,
welcome.
hey everyone, welcome to our professional services webinar with Sage Intacct. We're glad you're here with us and excited to share information about Sage Intacct and how it can transform your professional services organization. Before we get started though, let's have a little bit of information here. We want to make sure that you know that if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll respond to those at the end of the session here. And then we want to let you know too that there'll be a short survey that will go out after the session along with this recording of today's session. So please know those things here before we get started. A quick look then at our agenda. Here's where we're going with today is we'll first do some introductions, myself and Linda Pinion, who has graciously joined us today. And we're going to talk a little bit about why Abdo Myers decided to partner with Sage Intacct, how Sage Intacct is positively impacting our professional services clients. And then let's take a closer look at the software itself. And then we'll have time for questions at the end. First introductions, my name is Janine Shear and I am the Senior Manager with Abdo Myers leading our technology and data services, with Sage Intacct really being an important part of how we serve our clients and how we make a difference for their organizations. I have a background in audit, consulting, and working as a CFO controller and have a passion for technology solutions. Along with me today is Linda. Linda, would you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity, Janine. We have worked together previously on some opportunities and always such a great thing to work with you and your team. So as Janine mentioned, I am with Sage Intacct. I'm a principal solution consultant. What that means to you today is that I am a product person. So I invest a lot of my time in the product. I work with different types of organizations, whether it's general business, not-for-profit, or in this case, professional services. So what I want to impart with you today is, how Sage Intacct and Abdo are working with professional services organizations like yourself to help you be more successful.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Linda. We're lucky to have you here with us today and excited to have you present on professional services with Sage Intacct. So some reasons why Abdo Myers chose to partner with Sage Intacct. First of all, we listened to our clients. We heard them when they said that they're having issues to real-time access to information that they need to manage their organization. They're spending countless hours each month extracting, compiling, manipulating, sending information, rather than having that information available to them, to each person when and how they need it. We heard too that they're having issues managing and reporting on multi-entities. So struggling to manage logging in and out of different companies, manually entering intercompany information from one organization to another, which can be very labor intensive and provide that opportunity for error. Another way that we heard is with separate systems. So we have clients that have separate systems that don't talk to one another. They're not integrated, they're not transferring data back and forth between systems, resulting in manual entries. And again, leading to not only expensive resource time, but the opportunity and the potential for error. A second way is that we're excited about the product is we love this product. It's intuitive, it's easy to learn. And what we like too is you pay for only what you need. You buy the core and you add on what you need. It has unbelievable reporting, including the ability to provide consolidated reporting across entities, that built-in and configurable dashboards to provide that tailored information to each user. And another reason is client care. We think it's the right thing to do to provide ongoing basic support to our clients. And that's included in your annual software fees. If you've ever had to be on hold for hours with a software provider, you know how important this benefit is. We'll help guide you through the implementation and be there for you ongoing. Another reason is reputation. So Sage Intacct is the only preferred provider of the AICPA, the people who know accounting and great financial systems. Sage Intacct's ranked #1 in satisfaction on G2. It's called a visionary leader by Gartner. And best yet, Sage Intacct has a 95% customer renewal rate. Customers love it as much as we do. Finally, the cloud value, the ability to work from anywhere. It's a native born in the cloud solution. It's not adapted to the cloud. It's not an on-premise software that was put in a cloud environment that needs to be periodically upgraded. We saw the importance of being able to work remotely in 2020, especially as offices had to quickly pivot and move to that remote environment, and really were left often struggling with their outdated on-premise solutions. Some people ask, well, but it's cloud, is it ever down? Over the past 12 months, the system has been available 99.978% of the time. Another reason why cloud value is important is the software is updated 4 times a year automatically. There's nothing you need to do. You automatically will get new releases, new features and functionality 4 times a year. No longer do you have to wait to upgrade and get the most recent release. A final reason why cloud value is important is it really helps reduce our IT hard and soft costs. It reduces the cost of owning and maintaining. Think about this, the hardware, the IT staff to support your solution. Really, it's for all of these reasons and more that we're seeing Sage Intacct having an important impact on companies using the efficiency, the insights enabled by Sage Intacct to drive results. Let's learn more, and at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Linda.
Thank you, Janine. And I would just say that we are lucky to have you and your organization as part of the Sage Intacct family.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I just want to emphasize is that our intent today, Janine and I both, our intent is to help you and your organization be better at what you do. And one of the ways that we do that is by helping you deliver clear and measurable results. And what you're going to see today in the software is some feature function, but I want you to really kind of think of it in a different way. Companies and organizations today are focused on making sure that they can be more strategic as opposed to being tactical. So as I'm showing you things and talking about things in the software that are going to help you on a day-to-day basis, I want you to really think and listen to some of the pieces around vision and about, where you want to go, where you want to take your company, and how do you get that vision and that strategic approach. And that's what our software and our partners help you do. So I'm going to highlight 3 different companies here. The first one is a staffing company. They reduced their payroll time by 90%. One of the things that they found was that they were spending a lot of time every week getting payroll put together. And that was just a huge time hog for them. So they have reduced their payroll time by 90%. A second company is a life sciences company, completely different type of company, very project driven. What they found was that they came to the table and said, we really don't know if our projects are on track. We don't know if our projects are profitable. And we really need help in getting a better handle on our projects. Their metric here is they've added 12% to their project margins. And then a third company is an HR company, and they came to the table with a requirement of help us get to the point to where we can close our month in less days. It was taking them an extremely long time to get their month closed, to get everything kind of gathered together, buttoned up. They were well into the next month before they had any type of reporting. Of course, board members and stakeholders and e-staff had a real problem with that. They were anxiously waiting for this information. So this particular company has reduced their close by 20 days. So you're probably thinking, okay, so she showed me and talked to me about 3 different companies and some different metrics. What do these companies have in common? Well, what they have in common is that they're all using Sage Intacct, and they've all been able to meet and exceed their requirements. And they're also all professional services businesses. So when I think of professional services, I kind of pigeonhole it into people that are more than likely project driven, but they're also driven by labor. They're driven by employees that are turning in expense reports, turning in time, tracking their day-to-day activities, their billable time, making sure that they are reporting correctly so that we know the status of those projects. We've helped lots of different organizations, not just those three that I highlighted there. Here are some of the organizations that we have worked with. Some of them may be ones that you have uh, known about or worked with yourself. These are companies and organizations that have taken advantage of Sage Intacct and what we offer in the professional services area. Now, when you think about some of the industry trends, I'm going to cover this lightly and quickly because this is what you do. You obviously know what's going on in your business. However, there are some trends here, so you're not alone in some of the things that are happening. A lot of times people look at a project-based business and they see, we've got a lot of things going on, but we're not monitoring what we're doing and how effective we are at what we're doing. And sometimes that's around, making sure that we're on track, that we're on time, that we don't have this huge backlog, making sure that we are keeping track of our utilization. Do we have the right people? Are we utilizing them correctly? And then, another piece that is top of mind for most organizations is how are we going to be able to bill correctly so that we are getting the correct margin? We all know that uh, yes, we are billing for our services, but we need to be billing correctly. We also need to be looking at our projects historically to know that moving forward, we are using the right metrics, the right standards, so that we are sending out people on projects that can be profitable and that we're meeting those profit margins. So some of the common business challenges that we see in this particular vertical, a lot of manual things going on, whether that's manual tracking of what you're buying for a particular project, how you are gathering that information so that you can turn it in so that it gets passed through to your customers. So we think about spreadsheets, we think about redundant entry. And every time we think about that, know that we're just opening up the opportunity for errors to be made and for things to take a lot longer than they should. Lots of organizations, I know even in the last 18 months, I will speak for myself and for Sage Intacct, we have been extremely busy. We have not slowed down. If anything, we have really sped up. We've geared up. Um, we've been working long and hard, and maybe you have too in your organization. Maybe you have more projects than you thought you would have. And managing that volume of projects can be really difficult. The complexity of billing, a lot of times people don't realize that if you make billing too complicated, then that slows down the ability for you to bill. So we've got to make it easy for people to get their time in, for them to report their activities, and we've got to have that visibility in order that we can make those processes simple and straightforward and clean. We want to make sure that we bill correctly the first time, because every time we need to come back and rebill or correct something, that just takes a hit on our cash flow. That just slows down our customers from paying. One of the other big issues here is how do we take all this data, which may be, as Janine said, it could be in different systems. It could be in a manner or in a format that it's not easy for us to pull it together. And when we want to do those consolidated views and reportings, it's difficult because we're having to manipulate things so much to get them into a cohesive report that's meaningful to our teams. And then, of course, I always like to say you cannot be accountable for things that you cannot see. So if you can't see it, then how do you know what's going on? And this lack of visibility, again, because we have lots of different systems, because we have complicated systems that we don't understand, because we have folks that are remote, that are working in different locations. So there's a lot of reasons that we have a problem with visibility. So one of the things that we want to introduce to you today is a financial management system that is, as Janine said, it is cloud. That's the only flavor that it comes in, folks. It doesn't come in any other flavor. And that's a good thing. As Martha Stewart would say, that's a good thing. So a cloud-based solution, financial management solution, is what we're going to be focused on today. And it's going to touch a lot of different areas within your business. It's going to touch profitability and cash flow. It's going to look at global expansion. Perhaps you're a domestic company today. However, you need to have that capability that the solution that you choose today remains the solution. When you choose to go globally, you want the solution to be able to take you there. You also want to make sure that you're compliant. Lots of things going on in the accounting world, and we always want to make sure that we are vertically supporting you from a compliance standpoint. As Janine mentioned, we are supported and the preferred provider from the AICPA. So we're very interested in making sure that we are remaining compliant. If you are someone who has experienced in the last 18 months needing to redo your budgets, needing to go look at, where are we? And I know immediately last March, I had customers that said to me, we'd already done our budgeting, but we're going back and we're redoing our budgeting, and we're probably going to redo it several times over in the next few quarters. So these are some of the things that are fundamental to your customer and to your company's success. So a modern cloud financial management solution, one that really walks across these different pillars here, giving you that automated quote to cash lifecycle, giving you flexible ways to do your project costing and billing, and you'll see that in a few minutes. Also looking at how do you manage your resources. So do you have certain folks that have skill sets that you need to make sure that you are utilizing them correctly and that you have visibility to whether or not they're available. And then of course we talked a little bit about budgeting and planning. The platform along the bottom is foundational. However, I just want to put a second spin on this, and that is AI, artificial intelligence. And the good news is, no, you're not going to be managed by robots, nor will you be managing robots at this point in your career. However, we as a software publisher, we are heavily involved with AI and machine learning, and we're utilizing this to remove some of those repetitive things that we as humans have been doing so that we can do more important and strategic initiatives. So we're looking at the data, we're looking at patterns in the data, and we have incorporated that into a couple of different things. One is around something we call the GL outlier, notifying you before a journal entry is approved and posted that there's some reason for you to look at this transaction. It's not normally what you post, or not normally the accounts or the account structure that you post to. We've seen something that doesn't look like it's quite right. So we're going to give you a chance to correct that before you approve it and post it. The other piece is something that is really important for professional services companies, and that is what we call Sage Intelligent Time. And Sage Intelligent Time, if you are in a situation where you've ever had to report your activities that get fed to the billing system, you know that that is a pain to do, and it's easy for you to forget something. Sage Intelligent Time connects to your phone, to your Outlook, to your calendar, and it pulls that information that you have there over into a timesheet. What a novel thought. Now you're going to think for me. You're going to bring it over. I'm still going to get to personalize it and it can still be approved, but that's going to save me so much time. And it's also going to help prevent revenue leakage. So we're going to make sure that things that are supposed to get tracked and supposed to get billed for are captured with Sage Intelligent Time. The automated quote to cash cycle, again, just quickly, just kind of touching on these bullets here. This is the process that a lot of service organizations are going through. You go through that step of, the sales folks selling the work, doing the estimates, and maybe you're even using a customer relationship management tool, something like a Salesforce maybe on the front end that's tracking those opportunities. And then once you win the business, taking that opportunity and turning it into a full-fledged project, putting tasks to it, assigning resources, getting it up and going and ready to go. And then physically doing the work. And doing the work means, reporting those activities and making sure that you have visibility to what's going on with the project. Not when the project's finished, but as the project's going along, making sure that you're able to course correct, that you're able to see the things that are happening as they're happening, instead of waiting until the project's done and then saying, gosh, we really blew it on that project. We didn't do what we said we were going to do. We didn't have the profit margin. And then, finally, the last step, of course, is billing our client. And billing can be an involved process. Sometimes it's real simple and straightforward. You collect all the information, you bill them, send them an invoice, and they send you a check. Other times, you want it to be a little bit more, maybe a little bit more complex or a little bit more involved, because you want to introduce something called revenue recognition. So recognizing revenue differently based on a revenue recognition schedule. So again, just understanding that these are the steps that you're probably encountering and going through in your business today. And we want to automate much of this for you. We want to give you a flexible project costing and billing solution. We want to give you not only project financials, we want to include time and expense, revenue recognition, and then billing. But this is all going to be handled within the financial system itself. Now, different types of projects, whether it's time and expense, it's milestone, it's based on a percentage complete, and then being able to have different vendors that are maybe interacting with Sage Intacct. So you may have some solutions that you're using today that you want to keep in place, and those solutions can be integrated into Sage Intacct. Again, just a broad brush of here's how we might integrate with some other solutions. 75% of our customers integrate to 2 or more solutions. We have a large marketplace that shows you a lot of the partners that have already created relationships with Sage Intacct. The model that we propose here is what's called a best-in-class model, which means that we are going to be that core financial system for you. And then as you need to, you may partner with other best-in-class solutions that need their information to flow into our financial engine. So one of those might be something like I mentioned, Salesforce. Another on the left-hand side here, some advanced project and resource management tools may be coming from someone like Keyed In. This information can then flow in seamlessly into the financial engine. So hundreds of integration resources. I think there's actually over 200 on the marketplace now. And again, you can see, a quote down at the bottom. We were architected to have an open architecture. And the reason that that's important is because let's just say that you're already using something like a Salesforce or a Keyed-in. You've invested in those tools. And if those tools are working for you, those tools are ones that we want to help you protect the investment that you've made in them. You invested in the application, you invested in training and education, you invested in people. And so if those are working for you and doing what you need in that area of your organization, we want to help you retain that. At the same time, we want to take the information that's in those solutions that's important to us from a financial perspective and bring that into our financial engine. From a budgeting and planning perspective, I won't spend a lot of time here, but you want to budget for lots of reasons in your organization. It's not just about budgeting for the project. Most organizations are budgeting at least once a year. Sometimes people do a mid-year budget, that they do a reforecast, if you will. The budgeting and planning tool in Sage Intacct is a very advanced way for you to budget. It allows you to have a connector between the budgeting and planning tool and Sage Intacct Financials. It's a bi-directional connector. It's easy for you to pick up and use. You can deploy it in days, not weeks or months. Very seamless flow with the financials. And this is a way for you to also be able to collaborate better. So if you're one of those organizations that has your different department managers sending out Excel spreadsheets to them and asking them to budget, and then you're trying to gather all that together, mush it together is what I say. So if you're trying to get that all together, that can be a real nightmare. This tool helps you also manage the collaboration and make sure that you've got the current version of the budget, and there's no questions about whether you have accurate information or data. And then I spoke to Intelligent Time. We won't be doing a breakout on this today, but if you have an interest in that, please reach back to Janine and team, and we'll make sure and get you a quick asset on that so that you can take a look at it. But this is, of course, using artificial intelligence, and this is one thing that we feel like will help you prevent some of that revenue leakage and track what's going on in your projects easier from recording all those tasks and activities. So Janine, I'm going to switch over to Sage Intacct. As I'm doing that, if there's anything in the chat that needs to be answered, let's take it now. Otherwise, we'll just jump right in to Sage Intacct.
Linda, nothing's coming through on the chat yet, but feel free to put any questions and answers in, or excuse me, put anything in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll be happy to answer those questions as we go.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. So sometimes I get excited and I forget that there's an audience out there and they have some questions. So just wanted to touch base with you. So just one other verification. Can you see my screen okay, Janine?
We sure can, yep.
Okay, perfect. If that changes for anyone, if you'll let the team know in the chat box, let them know that you can't hear or you can't see, and we'll try to get that corrected while we're on the call today. So for some of you, this may be your first opportunity to see Sage Intacct. There's a whole lot of stuff going on the screen, and we could spend several hours looking at different things on this screen. We don't have several hours today, but what I want to do is just hit some high points of the user experience, because people always want to know, how easy is it to use a tool like this? What's it going to be for my users to change and switch over? Is that going to be comfortable? And what does the baby look like? So I call this the pretty baby tour. So I've logged in today as actually 3 different users. The first user that I've logged into here is Emma. She's my controller. And I'll show you quickly how easy it is to navigate. As I am a user, I have permissions and securities behind me. Emma's kind of a super user. She can do anything. She can go anywhere. One of the things that she has permission to do is to work in multiple entities. So just a terminology check here. Entity is the same thing as company. So you can define as many entities as you choose to. And within those entities, you can also have locations. So there's some hierarchy there as well. Your takeaway is Emma has permission to work in any of these entities, work meaning she can transact in them. You'll also notice that this is a multi-currency environment. So all of these entities are in one instance of Sage Intacct. Some of them are in fact in different countries, which means they have different currencies. So we are multi-entity, we are multi-location, and we are multi-currency. And we have the ability to do both domestic and global consolidations. So that's just something about the structure of how we're set up here in this particular environment today. And our environment today is called Skyline. Now, in order to navigate, it's pretty simple. You're all probably used to having menu systems where you can select from tasks and activities and reports, click on something, it takes you right into the software. There's also a second way to navigate, and that's using what we call our processor overview maps. This is pictorial. It's helpful when you're new using the system. You click on the icon, takes you right into that area of the software. You'll notice here in this middle swim lane that there is some yellow arrows, and this is pointing to a best business practice. So second way to navigate is with these process maps. And the third way to navigate, and you'll see me use this today, is the bookmarked or personal menu that I've created. And you'll use this too once you get acclimated to Sage Intacct. You'll want to use this because it's quick, it's fast, it keeps you on track. And as a presenter, it keeps me on track because I've laid it out in the order in which I want to talk about these areas of the software. So speaking of using this menu, I'm going to come back to the role-based controller menu. So here we go. We're the controller, and as the controller, I want to see things that are important to me in my role. So as I build out these dashboards, I can build them, I can copy them, I can put different types of information, we call it components on them, and I can also set them up so that they're secure, so they can have permission. So our users can be permissioned, our dashboards can be permissioned, and in fact, our reports can be permissioned as well. So one of the things that I have done here is I've set up some key performance indicators. And remember that as I am looking at this, I'm looking across all of my entities here. And, you know, one way for me to do that is to say, I want to look at all entities, or maybe I just want to look at a subset. And that's what I've done here. I've used a dashboard filter to say, I just want to look at my USA locations, and I've grouped them together. So using this dashboard filter, I'm looking at just the US locations here. I could come up and change this to all locations, and it would then give me a warning that I really needed to do this at a grouping level, because that's the way I've set up my data, and location is required in order to gather this data up. So coming back to my dashboard filter and selecting my US locations and applying that goes out and represents the dashboard based on that filter. Now, you're going to see filters on other dashboards. Sometimes a filter might be at the project level. So we may want to look at this at a specific project level, or we might want to look at it at as of a specific date. So looking at it as of a specific date allows us to backdate this. We could change this and we could look at what did the company look like as of the end of November as opposed to the end of December. Now, these key performance indicators are just exactly what they say. There's some quick business insights, some metrics to say, here's how you're tracking along these particular areas of the business. And any of these I can then go in and I can access them and I can drill into them. So drilling into them would allow me to change and look at the detail of all of the information that's gone into that particular area of the business. And let me change my grouping here and get my drill down. There we go. Sorry, I chose the wrong group there, and so I was getting an error. So as I drill into that information, what you can see is that it's dropped me right into the G&A expenses. And now I have the ability to look at those transactions compared to my master budget. And I can see that my office supplies, I'm already in trouble. I'm over budget here. So let's drill into that and let's see exactly what's going on. So now when I look at this general ledger report, I can see the transactions that are coming through, and I can look at the detail of any of those transactions. I see in December, I've had a bill here from Neighborhood Printers, and I want to know a little bit more about that. So drilling into it is going to allow me to see the AP bill. I can see how much the bill was. I can see that I've made a payment, and I can drill into that payment right down to the check itself. I also can look at any attachments that are attached to this transaction as well. I scroll down a little bit further and I can see that this was charged to my office supply account, and I can start to see how it's being tagged to what we call dimensions. So now I've taken a transaction and I've tagged it to a specific department and to a specific location. What I can also see down here, and this is kind of interesting, you notice that I brought up a picture of a desk. And this is a bill to Neighborhood Printers. So this is a conversation that I've logged here through what we call Sage Intacct Collaborate. You may have noticed that on my dashboard. And this is a way for me to tag conversations to a specific transaction. So a conversation between myself and Nikki Tesla, she's one of my employees, to say, the attachment looks like it's a desk. However, it's for brochures. This is a bill for brochures. Not sure that we've got the right attachment with this invoice. This allows you to self-document. Keying in those conversations, you might have a picture or a file that you want to link to that conversation. You can send it to a person or to a group. So this just gives you the ability from the dashboard to really get in and log in to see what's going on from an expenses perspective. You can log into any of these performance indicators here. You can drill into the detail and you can do those comparisons. Now, another report that is very important to our controller is our profit and loss report. So let's take a quick look at how this might be important for us to see how we're tracking. We're comparing 3 different months here. And you'll notice that I've got a dual revenue stream here. I've got some subscriptions coming through, but I've also got services coming through. I can again drill into this information right from the report itself. I can take a look at any of the transactions that have been posted. Remember, this time I'm on the revenue side. So what I'm seeing is a customer invoice that's gone to Cost Less Insurance. And this is something that was a project that I have now recorded all of the revenue and broken that revenue out into project and employee and right down to a task level. I can also see that this was an invoice, excuse me, to my customer that was a time and expense. So time and material, pardon me, not time and expense, time and material. And this particular invoice, I can see exactly how it was broken out. So I have detailed coding here across the item, the project, the task, the employee. And this is what's going to give me that great project reporting that we need. I can see that I have a project defined for CRM implementation, and this is what the project looks like. When I set it up, I can set this project up. I can determine who the customer is it billable, how I want that billing to occur, is it time and material, is it percent complete, who are the resources on this particular project, and give me excuse me, a project summary. So let me know the financial summary. Let me look at what my budget was and how my budget versus actual. So as I am posting transactions, it's keeping track of my actual and it's comparing it to my budget. And let me look at all of the hours and the expenses from the employees and my purchasing team that have come through for this particular project. So having that availability right here from basically from the dashboard, because we got this report from our dashboard. Anything that you see in blue here is available for you to drill into. And this is a report that was created with our financial report writer. So having that great visibility into profit and loss for the controller. Now, some other things that the controller might be interested in, actual versus budget. This is a view that highlights some things that maybe we want to check into. So we've set up some rules here. We've got our actual numbers, our budget, and then we're showing our difference and our variance. So we can show that in dollars, we can show it in percentage, we can do some highlighting, we call it conditional shading, that says, you know, based on a rule, we can highlight this so that you know these are some areas that you probably want to do some additional research in because there's something going on that you want to take action on. Looking at your cash balance trend, here you see a graph that we've created. You can show the graph. You can also flip back and show the data. So giving you that cash balance view. And then, you know, also being able to look at expenses by department. So as a controller, I'm interested in knowing, you know, how are my departments faring as it relates to expenses? Is everybody on track? So now I can look at by department, I can look at how they're tracking with their expenses. So these are the things that are important to me from a controller perspective. Now, there's several other folks that are part of my team here, and one of them is a key person, a project manager. So notice that on the project manager, I've got some different information because that's what's important to them. Things like hours worked, and hours worked is more of an operational piece of information. That's something that we may even be tracking in another solution, and we want to bring that forward, and we can certainly do that. Our labor cost, we might want to bring those labor costs over from our payroll system. So that might be something that's coming over from a payroll system like ADP or Paychex. Our expenses, and then, you know, looking at this quick business insight may be enough. Again, remember we've got our dashboard filters up here. So now we're filtering into a particular location, and we're also filtering into a particular project and project manager. So we can look at this across just our projects, or we can look at it across a grouping of projects. So here's a snapshot of our project dashboard, and we can see an individual listing of some projects that we're working on. How great is it that we can see all of this information right here at our fingertips? We can see how much has been billed, We can see the revenue, we can see the hours worked, we can even see our gross profit. As we look at that, we can also drill into that. So drilling into it, same type of capability that you saw before. We can drill in and we can look at any of the detail. I've broken this revenue out into different revenue accounts. So everything doesn't go into one account in my ledger, it's going into those different revenue streams. Additionally, I can look at my margin and I can see, what is my margin? And if it's good, I may want to flag that as green to know this is where I'm tracking. If it wasn't at the right level, I could have shaded that red. And maybe again, that's an area that I want to go in and look at and do a little bit more investigating. I can also look at my projects against a budget. I can look at projects that perhaps were fixed fee projects. So again, remember, you can have different types of billing at your project level. Another dashboard that I want to show you is one that's called a resource manager dashboard. Again, it's all about visibility. How do we see what's going on with our projects? If I'm the resource manager, I'm concerned about the people that are being assigned and how those people are performing. What's my utilization hours? What are my billable hours? What's my utilization percentage? And now I have some reports to support that information. So I can see utilization by title and by quarter. And these allow me to really see what's going on within my organization. So now I've created a little bit different view or format of this information. And now I can see that I have different types of folks. I have consultants versus designers versus developers. And I can use some of my visual indicators here, including my spark lines, to see how I'm trending. So this gives me a real view into how I'm tracking and how I'm managing from a resource perspective. And then one last area that I want to cover from a dashboarding perspective is what we call dimensional insights. And I think this is probably one of the most detailed reports that I would show you today. And that's revenue trend by dimension. So let's kind of come back to dimensions again. Dimensions are a way for you to take a transaction and tag it to one or more of the 12 predefined dimensions. So remember that dimensions are things like location, department, project, employee, vendor, customer. So think about all the different ways that you want to see your revenue and how it's trending. And that's what this report shows you with a lot of color to it. So again, we're looking at revenue. We're not looking at revenue and expenses. We're looking at revenue only. However, we've broken it up into our quarters and then our year to date. We're using our visual indicators. But if you'll notice down the left-hand side, we've gotten this broken out by operating locations. We've got it broken out into service lines, into specific items, into specific project managers, into specific tasks. So this gives us the ability to really slice and dice the data. We can come in and we can filter this data because we've created dimensional data by tagging our transactions to those dimensions. Now, one of the things that alludes to is that we have a different chart of accounts. So our chart of accounts is not segmented. It is only using the natural or base account in the chart, which gives you a very clean chart of accounts, one that's easy to maintain. So other things that are on this dimensional insights view here: revenue by item, revenue by service line, by location. Again, all of this information coming to you because we have that dimensionalized data. Now, I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. I want to show you a few other things that are key to you understanding how detailed we are in a projects or professional services solution. This is our project overview map. It's the map that I pointed to initially that you can navigate from. When you look at this, I want you to understand that these are the data elements that we are targeting in this application. What this means is that you can have multiple projects set up. They can be billable, they can be non-billable, they can be projects that are time and material, fixed fee plus expenses. They can be based on percent complete or milestone billing. Within that project, if you're billing, you can bill that, of course, to a customer. If it's an internal project, then of course you wouldn't be billing it. However, within that project, you may want to assign employees to that project. So that's where that resource assignment comes from. And within that, you might be buying items for that project. Maybe you're buying specific things through purchasing, through AP. So there's an opportunity for you to link that and connect that information. And then, of course, setting up the different tasks. And you can use a standard task catalog to help you set those up really quick. And you can also have task groups. Within projects, you'll also see two other areas. And these are kind of tightly connected, and that's time and expenses. So when you think about what transactions go in from other areas into billing for that project, you might have folks entering timesheets. You might have folks entering their expense reports. They may be flagging that time and that expense as billable to that project. So that when you come back into projects and you look at the ability to generate an invoice, you're going to have all those downstream transactions flowing in automatically, and you'll be able to bill your customer directly from the project's application. So if we come back over here, another area that I want to just speak briefly on, and that is, one of the stories that I highlighted today was about an organization that reduced their close time at the end of the month. There's two areas. One is something called spend management. And spend management basically allows you to control spend at the time you are entering a purchase order or entering an AP bill. And this connects that spend to a budget. So what you see here in the insight window is I have a budget set up for a particular department, location, and account of $28,500. I've already spent $727. I'm wanting to spend $2,000. What this spend management allows you to do is to control whether or not you can make this purchase based on funds available. It can give you a warning, or it can stop you hard and not let you proceed. So this is going to help you control spend. The other area that I want to just touch on is allocations. And one of the things that you do at the end of the month is to also look at how you're allocating expenses. So we can automate that. We can do that with a transactional allocation. We can also do that with an advanced allocation that would allow you to allocate across based on a rule that you set up at the end of the month. And that allocation entry will then show you exactly how you want to take that pooled number and distribute it across different dimensions and different accounts in the ledger. So two things that will help you, spend management and allocations. I apologize, we started a little bit late today. I want to jump back to my PowerPoints now and do a couple of quick finish ups here, and then we'll open it up for some questions. So one of the things that I wanted to impart with you today is that we want to make sure that you saw that you have complete visibility into your projects, that you can really gain control of what your projects are doing before they end, so that you can course correct if necessary, that you can have that real-time visibility, that you can look at your resources and you can understand exactly how they're being utilized. And then if you need to do some type of global consolidation, that is certainly there as well. And that global consolidation will automate all of those closing entries for you. So Janine, I'm going to turn it back to you and let you cover the resources and next step slide. And if we don't get to your question today, I know that Janine and team will follow up after our session.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Linda. That was excellent. And thank you everyone for attending today. We will send a follow-up link to today's recording. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Please contact us at salesintacct@aemcpas.com, or please refer to our website at www.aemcpas.com for additional information. Linda, thank you again. This was very, very good, and we appreciate you being involved in today's session.
You are so welcome. Everyone have a great day. Bye
Thank you.
now.
Bye.